motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? All right, minutes approved. Any visitor comments? Okay. Old business standing policy update?
Yeah, so the naming policy, will be at the city council work session on November 7th, a couple weeks from now. They are going to discuss it, take a look at it. Dan and I will both be there if you have any questions. But we forwarded that document on, to them for their review. So the GM Scott Peoples has seen it and recommended that they take a look at it. So the accountant's in, they'll take a look and see if they like it, love it, want to change anything on it or not. And then it'll either come back to us for changes or could be approved and be our new official policy. So we'll see what, or anything in between those things. We'll see what they have to say when they take a look at it.
Anybody's welcome to join.
Yeah.
Just feel free to get online on Zoom or come in person. Great.
Great. All right, any other old business before we move on to new? Okay. All right, the Destination Webster Groves presentation. Sounds exciting.
It is exciting.
Well, I was excited.
Yay.
All right, so we are sharing that up now. So we presented, the three of us presented to city council about a month ago now, on this, the first meeting of October. And so we wanted to run through the presentation with you all, as well. So kind of let you want to go over how we did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So incredibly informed. If there's questions, please bring back them. It has been exciting. It's been fun to put it together to talk about. I think there's an amazing array of projects. I also think there's probably an amazing array of projects we haven't considered. So really would like to hear feedback. Just all those things. Dive in.
Eric, you want to jump on?
Certainly, I apologize for the formatting that always should have been different in a different street, but this is just our current tax rates and revenue, so you understand our assessed value is at 839 million property value across the city. That's commercial, personal property, and real estate. That currently the tax rate for the debt service, which is what pays our bonds, is 20.1 cents per $100 of value. So that, you know, for every $100 of value would be taxed 20.1 cents. That is the current tax rate, and that brings in about 1.6 million. That number there is our expected revenue. The model, as we look forward in the next slide, we'll see the finance model really brings us up to 22.1 million of total bonding capacity. There's some more numbers beyond that, which I'll lay out briefly for you. But essentially, without even factoring in growth of the residential and commercial value property in the city, we can safely assume on a conservative model that we're going to be able to meet that bonding need for $22 million if the council chooses and the citizens choose bond that amount. So again, future growth in the city and values allows for other future bonding projects. The numbers behind that also, people have asked about interest. I want to be very clear. The 22.1 is a principal number. There's still enough room to build the interest on whatever we decide to bond into that tax rate. So we structure the bond. It's not like the bank tells us what our interest rate is going to be. Like when we buy a home, we get to influence the bonds. Say this is what we can pay you each year, and that's what you're going to have to deal with a lengthy schedule for sale of bonds.
And
So-
all of these materials are available on South Pepperell. You've taken those things are online. We're having to share it via email.
Yeah, this whole presentation on the city's website, and we're recording this, so it'll be open if you want to hear this one or the one we did in council. You can also see those on the YouTube channel.
So under the Missouri law and under our city charter, the residents of the city are involved in bond issuances or debt. The council will decide the scope of the bond, meaning what subjects are we putting in the bond. That's very important. You can't take two disparate items like a firehouse and the parks, put them together in a bond. The voters have a right to say, I support the firehouse, but I don't want to support the parks, or vice versa. We certainly hope to support, you get my point. And then the size of the authority, how much goes before the voters for that issuance? And the voters say yes or no to that question. The one question on the ballot, for the value and for the scope, and then from there, the city then takes it back over and determines when to issue the bonds. So we don't just immediately turn around and issue all 22 million. Authority now exists. So we can issue the bonds as needed. So if there's a project that needs to get pushed out a year, we may not want to take on years of interest, sit on the money, you know, we may put out an issuance further on, but the authority is what people are voting on. And so the project list also may change, right? I mean, we're trying to find that list of what we can say to the public we're doing, but also needs may change, right? You know, we may come about that the new skate park isn't good, so, you know, something along this. And so in that bond process, again, we only pay capital costs. They're tax exempt bonds. That's why investors are buying. It's they're sheltering their tax liability by buying a bond. So they cannot pay property. It's capital costs only. It has to be a single subject. We require in Missouri a supermajority. So in the April election, no different than it will be in August or November of next year, we have to get greater than 57.14%, not 50% plus 1. 57.14% or greater. To achieve the vote. I don't think we've ever had in recent history a bond election not be successful. The city, the residents are very supportive, but that is a number we must reach.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what's our recent history of bond issues?
The firehouse was
The last
pretty open.
one was the firehouse.
I think I wasn't here for the firehouse bond. I'm looking at Scott. I think it was
healthy.
Yeah.
70% or better. The last Parks and Rec we did was, for the, Parks and Stormwater Sales Tax was like 1999, something like that, and it was 88%. That's overwhelming.
the biggest bond issues other than the firehouse really have been the concrete roads. So we've issued 2 major bond issuances in the last 20 years for the concrete roadway system. And those we're still, in fact, you know, just this year will pay off the last set of bonds. So are you, Scott?
Over to me. So we put together a list, the three of us and my staff put together a list of potential projects. These aren't the projects, so, but so that we could show the residents, these are the types of things that we could do if you wanted to take out a bond issue, whether that's the full amount of 22 million, whether that's 12 million, whether that's 15 million or somewhere in between or whatever it is. So I'll run through a few of these. There is, I gave you the survey documents that you got there that has the dollar amounts on there, as all these listed. That survey is actually online. We would much prefer you to fill it out online. We have paper copies if you'd like to. And then I'll fill it in for you online off your paper copy. If you'll, we really want you all to fill it out, but also pump it up to your friends and neighbors, for them to fill it out too, because we're wanting the residents' input on which of these projects you think are valid, that you'd like to see, that you think is worth the tax dollars it's going to cost to do it. And city council is going to then see that data, and that'll inform their decision on what they should go out for, how much they can come back to ask you guys about on.
So Scott, you interrupt you, when we did the initial pool survey, we had close to 1,000 responses.
A little bit thousand, yeah.
Which was great. I would love to have more, but in terms of survey responses, that was a really healthy response. So far for this one, we would love to surpass that 1,000. We had 194 responses. Closes November 3rd. So please pay your kids $1 to take a survey, do something, share it with your friends. The paper surveys, as Scott mentioned, we want everybody to have access to it. So, you know, people that would fill out the paper surveys, we're happy to do the data entry as well. But it's really important to hear everybody's voice.
And they can pick up those paper ones here at City Hall, take the library too, and the library as well. So, and then there's a drop box that they can drop them back off at, and my staff in the room. So the first one, this kind of all started with the pool. We talked about this several times with renovating. That pool was opened in 1985, so 28 years this year. It is struggling, needs to be rebuilt, water quality issues, holding water in the pool and whatnot. So through the aquatic master plan, the residents really said that they want to see the same that we have now, better updated, so still 3 bodies of water, multiple slide towers, a lot more shade structure and such. But that one's coming in right about $12 million is what our estimates are on that right now. We have not engaged a full design team, so we don't have, final, layout of what it's gonna look like, or the final numbers of what it's gonna cost. But that $12 million came out of our master planning process for that 3 bodies of water. Super water slide feature, this is something we threw in there that could go on there, upwards of $1 million, for a representative picture like that, at the pool.
Scott, you won't see that in the survey, you ask the council, where's the things you don't want to put on the survey, and this is one of the ideas, it's like, let's not put that on. People can still add it, but it's not listed in there.
So you want a super water slide?
Yeah.
Survey?
Open air theater, likely at Memorial Park, which you can see up here in the left-hand picture, there's the pool, the tennis court, so it sits somewhere in that neighborhood, between those two, so you can play out onto the, ball fields, to be able to host any type of theater, band, productions, summer concert series, things of that nature. Could possibly also be used interior to the aquatic center as another shade structure, party pavilion for rentals or for swim team practices and things like that too. So this hasn't been, none of these have been designed yet, but these are all representative type pictures. Placeholder in there, $2.5 million. Again, it hadn't been designed, so it could be $1 million, it could be $4 million. It would really depend on how well it was supported and what we thought we needed to get it to be what it needs to be. Splash pad at Ivory Crockett Park. That park is on the other side of town from the aquatic center, so if we're putting a full splash pad in, it would be a great location for it. So we have destinations at both ends of town, likely recirculating water, just like in a pool, so fully chlorinated, pumped, recirculated water. 400,000 would be a good ballpark for that. Depending on what it would be, likely no standing water, so we're taking lifeguards, push button activation, so it's not running all the time, but when kids are there, they can hit buttons and things will start spraying. New park construction, this is the former McDonald's property down at Big Bend. So Great Rivers Greenway already owns the property. We're working with them already to continue the trail system through there. So we've talked about this, this parcel quite a few times in this commission. Additional ADA playground features for 400,000. That could be individual features at any park, or it could be used with a combination for a mini park grant, which we can get up to currently $525,000 about every other year. Through that grant program, we could combine that and do a much bigger, massive destination, fully ADA playground, which costs $900 to $1 million for one of those type playgrounds. Skate park, the current skate park is getting tired. It was built in 2005 with some grant funds. So it's time to replace some of those features that are out there. 250,000 would redo, make it a really nice park with a lot of different amenities. That'll likely also be the laydown area and storage yard for when the aquatic center is being built, so it will be out of service for a little bit of time. That would be a good time to be already taking it out of service to replace the old worn out equipment with new stuff at the end of that aquatic rebuild. So those are all kind of the big ticket, big thinking programs, higher dollar amounts. Sure.
Get reaction responses to any of the projects? Love them, hate them, what are we missing?
The open air theater appeals to me. I mean, I've been to many concerts at the Bear Park, Kirkwood Park.
Sure.
You know, a lot of our neighboring communities do nice shows and they seem to be very well attended, so.
Yeah, that was the one that stood out to me as well.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Was the indoor pool left off because it would put us right up against the 20 some million and we wanted to do more, or
So, thank you for asking that. That's when it's tough. It really gets down to the annual operating costs. And all of these things, depending on what the final packages, there's still operating costs with them. The indoor pool had a lot of operating costs. So Scott can talk about that, from personnel, lifeguards, energy use, just those sorts of things.
So pretty much everything else in this list is OpEx neutral or not that big of an increase?
Depending on the project, there are a few of the projects that are neutral, but the bottom line is that all of these will have increased, not all of them, the total package will have increased operating costs. We will be able to narrow that down more once council starts whittling the projects down.
Got it.
And then we'll do some design work and all that, shrubs, and community will be able to see what the proposals look like. It's really hard to come up with those numbers without being able to drill down more. Anything?
I would just add, I mean, money of these, let's say we decide to bond for 20 million, we go to the voters in April. You likely are gonna have some aquatic center designs, but a lot of these, we're really going to be looking as city advocates and also the Parks and Rec Commission that these are the conceptual things we put on the ballot. They're not, this is how it's going to look and this is exactly where it's going to be, but they're improvements both to our Parks and Recreation and our civic life. The open air theater is a great example. We have to cut down streets. Because Eagle Park is the only civic space near an economic center. So I mean, that we have this place in Memorial Park that really offers that opportunity. And so I think some of this is out of concept, but it's really building towards, we're gonna be able to get those right designs, but we gotta have that authority.
What else would just add real quick? This is a great question. In terms of cost control, like the skate park, replacing that, if that moves forward, cost control. There's not staff time that goes into that operation, so it depends. Every Crockett splash pad. That could be cost control if the solar upgrades that Scott's getting ready to talk about, and then we're part of that. If it's only the splash pad and we did do solar upgrades, then there's gonna be more operating costs. So everything kind of has an if then attached to it.
Sorry, one more question.
Please ask.
I might be jumping ahead, but are we allowed to make up that 20-some million across all of these categories? Or, okay, so
Yeah.
we could do everything in Destination Webster Groves, but advanced maintenance is completely
Absolutely.
ignored.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll show you the balancing act tool. That's the actual online product, and you can pick one thing. If you just want to do the pool, you can just say, just do the pool. I don't want to do anything else. You can make comments on there and say, I like the pool. I also want the indoor pool option, or, you know, I think open air theater is great. You should make it even bigger than it is and close the ball field to make it awesome, or, you know, whatever. You can pick and choose any of those things, yes. So, or add new, there's actually an add new, you can add a new thing that's not on there and give us what you think the dollar amount would be, and then we'll add that 300,000 into the proposal, whatever you think it might be.
Any other comments, thoughts on any of this? It's really helpful.
Customer experiences, so these are all things that will just enhance your all's customer experience if you're using our facilities. These don't have an individual slide for each one because they're lower ticket amounts, so about $1 million we think for all of these things, but they would include reworking our interior. When you walk into our guest services desk, it kind of bugs me right now that you come into the side of it and our staff aren't greeting you when you come in, so I'd like, and access control can be a little bit iffy sometimes when we got a whole lot of people, so I would like to move that guest services desk and you come into it at a 90-degree angle, sort of back and greet you when you're coming in. That'll be a better workaround for our staff to see who's coming and going, and potentially if we do the indoor pool at a later date, or if it happens in this, that would get the flow for that coming in and out would be reworked with this as well. Flooring, a lot of the carpet just needs to be replaced around the building, carpet and other flooring. The office 2002, this carpet was, I think off the top of my head, so it's just, we need to keep those spaces, especially our meeting rooms, our rental spaces are actually driving some revenue for us. The offices, they're 20 years old, they're not great, but nobody would be, you know, but that while we're doing all flooring, let's do it all. Fitness equipment, pre-pandemic, we were rotating that out every 3 years and keeping it updated and nice and fresh. We slowed that schedule down a little bit during the pandemic because it wasn't being used as much. And so we'd like to replace all that again. We are still replacing it. There's new stuff, getting ready to show up here soon. But just keep that equipment up and fresh. Studio edition. We talked a while ago, we had a grant that's actually gonna bump out this wall right behind us and make a fitness studio. This studio edition is a much smaller dollar amount, $250,000, that was almost $700,000. But this could be to rework some of the actual fitness spaces or the little spinning activity room right next to the fitness center. That goes out onto the pool deck. If we do the indoor pool option at some point, that would likely be the ingress, egress to the indoor pool would go through that room, so we need to replace that room somewhere. And then meeting room partitions, these things behind you, they're original to the building and need new walls and structures. The tracks are good for like 50 years, but it's time to start replacing some of those panels. Yeah.
Out of all these projects, are there any, I thought I heard some grants or matching funds. Is there a way to quickly see which of these there would be an opportunity cost or we'd be missing out on some matching if we pass these up at this time?
So our biggest grant that we can use for pretty much anything in Parks and Recreation is that municipal park grant. It's a sales tax that all the residents of St. Louis County pay into. And then that money gets divided back out based on populations of the individual municipalities that you're in, or if you just look at the county. The last time that was increased was when they were redoing the arts grounds downtown. So that was called Proposition P, and it was like 2016. So basically we can get that grant every other year because Webster has at almost 24,000 people. We have high enough population that's most of that grant is just based on how much you've gotten in the past relative to all the other municipalities that have gotten. A city like Rock Hill will only get it every 5 or 6 years. They've only got 6,000 people, but at 24,000 will get it every other. I'm planning on using those for the aquatic center. I'm going to apply the next 2 years running for those. The last one we got was actually for that fitness expansion and we gave it back. So the previous one to that was, I want to say 2018, so we've actually been, it will be 7 cycles between the two that we didn't get one, so we're almost guaranteed to get them those first 2 years, and then we'll likely have to sit a year or get, like, you take a half, we could take a 200,000 type of grant, and then take another $500,000 the following year, so we can use it for any project we want, as long as they're part of it. So
There's not a lot of available, excuse me, grants for things like carpet,
Yeah.
partitions. It's just not very exciting, even to us. So but anything that is approved, should this move forward in any amount, really, it helps offset the capital improvement plan so that these things could be funded. So it's kind of a win-win.
Just add simply, then go to that to the authority point. If one of these projects, say there's a great grant that would pay for half the aquatic center. Great, the voters now have given us $6 million of other bonding authority. If the council wanted to do more improvements for the parks. So just because we pass the amount of money doesn't mean the project that we set has to be done. If there's another way to make funding mix work.
Funding sustainable infrastructure. So these are all, sustainability is something the city is really focused on right now, and as we should be and into the future. So these are things that will hopefully lower our costs, whether that be electric costs, whether that be labor costs, or anything. We're just better environmentally too. So passenger vehicle replacements, as we're replacing especially passenger vehicles for parks. Like I have an SUV, we have a light duty F-150 truck, we have another SUV that's on the recreation side. I think all those could be switched to electric vehicles right now. The parks trucks, which are more heavy duty F-250s, F-350s, 450s, they don't really make those on e-vehicles yet. At some point, hopefully they will. But as those are coming on board, we're looking at things like that could reduce our fossil fuel usage and cost usage on fuel and such. Rooftop solar is probably the biggest one. There's actually two on here. So there's solar parks out in projects out of the park, so we've got 400,000 kind of tagged for that. That could be panels on top of, light poles that just run individual street lights, like parking lights in the parking lots. It could be covering rooftops of bathrooms, so it can run the heat and the lights and the hand dryers in the bathrooms. Ivy Crockett Park, if we do the splash pad over there, that operate all of the pumps and motors, that are feeding and circulating that water around. And then the big one on this list is 1.8 million of solar at this location. It's basically covering all of the ice rink structure, all of our flat roof structures. If we do the new aquatic center, I've kind of directed folks that are looking into design all those shade structures that are out there now, instead of having fabric shade structures with hard surface, so we could put solar panels on the top of all those. Why not capture that space, feed that right back into the building to run the pool pumps, to run heating, AC in here, lights, and the ice rink, you know, is a big driver of electric use here, to keep all that ice cold and frozen. Walking past around several parks, we're looking at Southwest Park, Memorial Park, and Larson Park, thank you, to put new walking trails inside those parks. They won't be full-on greenways, like a GRG trail is, but if your kids are up here playing soccer, you'd be able to walk around the park, you know, while your kids are here, so probably keep a good eye on, my coach should be watching. And then the South Elm Multi-Purpose Trail, that is more like a GRG type of greenway. So the Public Works Department has already applied for grant funding, federal grant funding to do a streetscape project on South Elm here. To put in some traffic calming, to put in a pedestrian and bicycle trail along the west side, thank you. So potential match on that, the city has a match of 985,000. So potential match to that federal grant could come out of this Parks and Rec bond, as it is Parks and Rec with the transportation, pedestrian, bicycle usage and such. And then a lot of sanctuary properties, we've got 300,000 in there to convert potential flood buyout properties that you can't put any more infrastructure on, convert some of those to native prairies, so that we're not mowing grass on those properties, you know, 20 times a year, or other right-of-way type of properties, convert those into something that's not mowable turf, so we don't have to send staff out to the, you know, on a bi-weekly basis to keep those mowed down. We just got a FEMA notification, is that yesterday, is that today?
It was Friday.
Oh, Friday, okay.
You know, I'll let you know on Friday.
Yeah.
That the city has been approved for 4 of the flood buyouts. So council has a lot of decisions to make in terms of whether we move forward with that. It's not on the agenda, but since I'm asking for good responses, what do you all think? Should the city buy the 4 properties? I know it's not a fair question, but here we are. It's a tough decision.
My gut instinct is to support removing structures from town and adding green space whenever it's feasible to do so. Especially in a floodplain. You know, why pay out money later when we can just take care of it now, turn it green, add some more trees, do the things that we all seem to like to do, and then figure it out.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing. I know I put you on the spot.
I will add for all you as advocates of the park system, when you talk to your fellow residents, they're like, great, now we got room for a soccer field. All that property can't be used for that, that's new, right? You're not gonna be able to make an athletic field, it's literally going to be
Sanctuary.
return to the prairie, return to the woods, whatever it may be. Which is not bad, it's you can't think of it as, oh, we have this new space, athletic field improvements, you know, all those kind.
One of my things along that line is how to thread that needle is replicating something like the sanctuary, the bird sanctuary in Blackburn. Okay, does that thread the needle enough to leaving it alone, leaving it as flood receptive land, but still adding to the usability of some of our green space in this town, specifically along Deer Creek on the south side. That is where those flood properties are, where that is already overgrowth. you know, I've mentioned a year and a half ago in the meeting, just, that's a piece of land that I feel is underutilized. That we could, because one of my favorite things to do is to get into woods. And that's one of the few woods that we still have in this town.
Sure. Well, stay tuned for more conversations on that, since we were just notified on Friday, council has not had an opportunity to have those conversations. I will share that when these conversations started, well over a year ago after the flooding occurred, it's been a long time, as you all know. We received a lot of commentary on both sides of the decision, so it certainly won't be an easy conversation to have, so, anyway.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
Area slide, specifically the South Elm.
Yeah,
Okay, what South Elm are we talking about? South of 44 or south of Lockwood?
Glendale all the way to
Glendale, south.
Glendale to Watson.
Okay,
There's no really good sidewalk constructed all the way down that path, and of course, it's a arterial road that is really carrying a lot of traffic, so part of the Safe Street movement and the more complete street movement, slowing traffic. So you're gonna get on that west side, essentially, we'll use the right of way without eminent domain more land. We'll be able to shrink the roadways up, take one part of the parking off and make a curb separation, multi-purpose trail. So theoretically, across the intersection from here, we'll be connected all the way to the south edge of the city, bike walking both ways. So it's very similar to the trail that Wabash right in the city, it runs along Wabash, in the city. So it's, and we've been awarded, I want to be clear, it's not, we're waiting. We're getting the grants, it's gonna come in 2027. So these are the kinds of things and why this package is so important. We're getting connectivity and all these improvements. So
then, just to be clear, we have been awarded the grant for 27. It does not have necessarily all of the walking path pieces, and since we have a required $900,000. Yeah, might as well just call it $1 million match. If we could do that through this project as well, that's great. Otherwise, we'll have to find a way to.
Question, is there a path to connect to like Ranch Trail? I can't visualize how close.
So I'm working with Dreamers Greenway on that. The Deer Creek Greenway right now, which ends in Lorraine Davis Park down at Kirkham and Marshall, basically. We're planning to go from there all the way through down through Larson Park to Grants Trail, basically where the QT and the library are connected somewhere in there at a likely place. So this doesn't get there, but the long-term goal is to get there. Now that could be 15, 20 years.
Sure.
We are talking in the next year or two, some other work happening down there between like the sculpture park and Lorraine Davis Park about maybe doing part of that next phase, while there's some MSE work that's probably gonna happen down there on Kirkham. And we've also got an EPA 319 grant, which is floodwater mitigation, stormwater mitigation along the trails. We've not been awarded that grant, but we've been awarded that grant. The state of Missouri Department of Conservation has accepted us as having that grant or recommending us for that grant. They're the actual recipient of the federal EPA money that comes to them. So it still has to get, the money has to be appropriated to Congress sometime next year. If Congress ever gets their stuff together, different story. And then the EPA would approve the entire state of Missouri's plan, and we're already included in that plan. So with some of that work along Shady Creek too, that would be a good time to join all those things together to get that next 7 blocks or whatever. So we're working that way. I'm pushing GOG, but you know, they got 3 counties that they're working in, and so and we just finished a couple $1 million greenway 2018, and we're doing a new park with it right now. So I can only get so many dollars out of them at a time, but I'm working on it because I want to. Once we get there and we finish what they're doing with the new park and through Maplewood, that'll take all the way down to the gravelway. That'll go all the way to the River Pear Greenway. So if you then complete it out to Grants Trail, then you'd be able to go full loop, which would be like 31 miles on the loop, which would be great for, you know, I'm not running 31 miles, but cyclists would for sure be to do it. Yeah, easily cycling. So
Just briefly on that, so I know sidewalks are not trails, I certainly understand that, but the state has surprisingly made a big investment. Watson is going to be reconstructed next year, and we're going to get sidewalks on the north side, on Webster Road side, going west over to Crestwood, so there will be connectivity to trails at sidewalk level, but it does help to improve that safety and also just give us a much better usage along Watson.
So right there where that Holy Rosary and that dead end is right at Grant and Watson, or where that street dead ends. That is getting new sidewalk there.
They'll be walking along the whole of Watson. Okay, there's right now on Webster Road, only sidewalk down to about Old Watson, maybe further up to the Big Lots. But there's nothing from Elm going west over to Crestwood on the north side of the Red Ramp. And so the entire, and there's no ADA accessibility to any of those sidewalks. It hasn't been updated, so the state road, they're redoing that whole corridor. And so those are the improvements, we're adding some bus shelters and such along there along the way. But there is no connectivity on Webster Grove side.
Because that street, that dead end right there is the 14 feet of if not connectivity of riding your bike from anywhere in Webster onto the Branch Trail. You get to the end of that street, then you gotta cut through those little bit of weeds, and then you're there.
And Crestwood's getting ready to open up a new spur, from the former mall to Grants Trail, like next week, I think, or 2 weeks now, they're opening up a new spur that's going into that whole new subdivision,
Yeah.
the walls that.
Yeah, I just saw that new bridge over there.
Right. So the new sidewalks, hopefully you'll be able to get up through that way as well too. So we're getting there, but it's taking us a little time.
For you. I gotta ask a question. So sustainability, we strayed the
Oh, yeah.
sidewalks, which is good, all good discussion. Thoughts on sustainability? And the projects that are proposed, are there some that you love more than others? Think it should be paid for out of other funds? Give me your thoughts. Parks and Rec group is really gonna be
Well, we don't have to pay it, sure. You know, I'm all about sustainability, so, this is one of those pages where I'd like to check every one of those. Personally, I guess I'm not 100% sold on vehicles yet.
okay.
I think the rest of it all makes sense already, the solar panels. Any sort of work to green space with native plantings makes total sense. The elm, I live on South Elm, I know that has issues, so. Yeah, you got me there, and walking paths in the park, yeah, I just talked about, it's one of my things I want to do is walk in the parks. So, yeah, everything on that list.
Anybody else? You will not hurt my feelings if you say it's all junk. Because there's,
It looks great, I just keep wanting an opportunity to go for a pond or some water feature somewhere, but I don't think that quite fits the sustainability.
and there's a splash pad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
It's damn Deer Creek, Deer Lake.
Yeah.
I think it looks good, the more sustainability, the better, even with the vehicles, maybe not going full fleet all at once. But because that would be the thing I wouldn't have said, as you said, like that wasn't the forefront of them, but. The walking trails, anything that makes Webster more walking friendly is always great. You know, your street isn't great up, you said you're on South Elm.
Yeah, I'm on the block that's just off where everybody walks, because it's not safe to walk on it.
The more dangerous right there, and it's great, really happy to hear about Watson Road, because I live at the end of Grant Road, almost near Watson, where Crestwood borders, and it's sad to see so many people that walk to work and are not safe on that road.
Yep.
So I'm really happy to
It's a
hear
long
about
time
that.
coming.
And it looks great.
All right, advanced maintenance. So these, most of these things are things we already have that we're looking to maintain so that we can continue to provide good services. There are some new things on here, some replacement stuff. So total about 3.7 million on this category. The first one and one of the largest ones is roof replacements and a new restroom. So a new restroom at Ivor Crockett Park. If we're putting in a splash pad over there, we're gonna need a bigger, better restroom that can hold more people per hour for usage. So it would likely be some sort of modular building like the one shown there. And then also replacing some roofs on, current restrooms that we have in Blackwood Park and, Southwest, I was looking for it, and I can't read it from here, like I said. So if you see the BB and SW, that's Blackburn, and Southwest, and IC is Ivy Crockett. So anywhere you see those letters behind it, that's the park segment, so I can try to remember what I'm thinking 2 months later. The second one and the biggest thing is ice rink. That's our largest revenue driver here at the rec center is the ice rink. We have been super lucky over the last couple of years. I need something more to knock on somewhere. That we haven't had major issues. We lost the heating below that ice rink. So normally an ice rink freezes water, freezes concrete, and then below that you have a heating layer so you don't freeze groundwater underneath it. We've lost that heating layer. It's been broken for several years. The only way to fix it is to rip out the entire concrete slab floor. If you're a skater, when I started here 10 years ago, we had about this much deflection on that concrete floor from one end to the other. It would heave and roll over. So we closed every summer for about 6 or 7 weeks, 5 or 7 weeks, depending on summer, so that we have time to let that groundwater permafrost actually thaw back out. Because when it keeps freezing until it hits bedrock, and then it starts heaving the concrete up. So this 1.5 million would be to have a planned time that we would go in there and we'd actually rip out all that concrete, we'd dig out all that permafrost, and we would rebuild the interior of that ice rink back to new, so that we have the heating layer, we have new concrete, and then we can make ice and do it the right way and we'll have a nice level flat surface. But that's a big ticket ask. For years, we carried this in our budget and our 5-year CIP plan every year, capital improvement plan every year. And because we've been really successful with the shutdowns every summer, now that deflection is much less. We're down to about 2 inches from the lowest point to the highest point on that concrete floor each year. We survey it every year when we shut it down to see how much it's smooth. So we're getting less movement, but we're still moving. So at some point, all those lines, refrigeration lines that are running underneath there, are gonna bust at some point, and we're gonna lose the ice, and there'll be 7 or 8 months of downtime because we hadn't planned for it. We don't have contractors already lined up, or we might even get it done in 3 or 4 months if we plan for it and have people lined up and do it before it actually breaks. But that's a big ticket item, $1.5 million or so. Field light improvements, so we've got 2 lit ball fields at Blackburn and Memorial, so converting those to LED, they're currently metal halides, so that'll be a huge cost saving on electricity usage once they're converted. But it's about $300,000 to convert those 2 fields over. Bleacher replacements, all the aluminum bleachers and the seating area of the ice rink for $70,000. The cooling tower on the ice rink for $60,000. That cooling tower is basically on your air conditioner at home, that's the outside, the condenser. It's called a cooling tower on something that's as big as an ice rink, but it serves the exact same function with that condenser that sits outside your house for your AC. HVAC, so some new air conditioning units that will service the rink locker rooms, service some of the this building's been kind of Frankenstein over the years. We've had a lot of improvements and renovations and additions. So several of those additions, smaller offices like there's 2 offices in the fitness center. Those are on its own little HVAC system for those 2 offices. The backside of the meeting rooms, kitchen, and the ice rink offices have a separate little AC unit. So that's replacing a bunch of those little smaller units, but there's 6 of those and they all add up to about 300,000, just shy of 300,000. Flat roof replacement, we've got a rubber roof right above your head, and about a third of this whole building has rubber flat roofing. So that's replacing that flat roof or putting a new coating on top of that, so we don't get water penetration coming inside the building. For lost my point, 300,000. We really can't read 200,000. We would also want to do that before we did any solar panels. We wanted to do the roofing first, and then put panels on, as opposed to put panels on and coming back 5 years later and having a roof issue and having to pull those panels off to fix it. Tennis courts, these are just basic tennis court, maintenance, painting, crack filling, so not the Memorial Park courts, but the other courts that haven't been done recently. Blackburn's close to 10 years old, since it was done. Ivory Crockett just got some court, resurfacing a couple of years ago, but we'll need it again here in the future. Actually, I take that back, this does have Memorial Park in there, just to repaint, the 8 courts out here. Parking lot reseals, just to reseal, recoat. The parking lot out here in a couple of parks, reseal it with oil, and repaint it to keep that asphalt fresh and pliable so it doesn't crack and break up too soon. Typically do that every 4 or 5 years at the latest. An additional new field, so another possible sports field, in the event that the open air theater would take over one of the fields up here, if that's what needed to happen to make that as great as folks would like that to be, then this 300,000 would potentially move lights and put lights in on another sports field somewhere else in town, so we would still have a set of lights on a ball field if we lost the baseball field up here. Or it could just be in addition to let's light another field so that we have another stage for teams to be able to play on. And then the last one is parks equipment, that's mowers, the tree lift on the right hand side of the screen, for being able to crawl into, that's got like tank tracks on it, so you can crawl into hilly spots in Blackburn Park. And then it's got outriggers, it's called a spider, because it kind of looks like wood, but then you can get up in the tree and do pruning and tree work and such. We have to hire out some of that work. Public Works has a bucket truck, which we use a lot anywhere we can get it, but it's a wheeled vehicle, so you can get it into all the great spots of some of our parks. So that unit's close to $100,000. You know, a lot of times taking down one tree, it costs $20,000 to take down one tree. So that would pay off in a couple of years for sure. So those are kind of advanced maintenance stuff. Things you just need to do to keep your stuff fresh, or if you can do ads, it would save us some money. So
The advanced work, if you say maybe what, let's say advanced piece, really look at this as a 5-year capital plan, calls for a lot of these replacements. So the bond allows us to advance that funding for those projects. And again, that still leaves on the table what the park improvement fund pays for in the capital plan, that ongoing revenue year over year, and the capital improvement sales tax. So there will be capacity to improvements added, should you include those in the bond.
All right, thoughts, questions?
Scott, I know it's not maintenance, but for the restrooms, like having little kids and constantly being on Memorial Field or tennis lessons. I think the only bathroom are the really nasty graffiti ones by the state park or coming all the way here. And when there's more.
there is one on the back side of the pool ice rink. There's one, so where the diving boards are at, outside that fence, there's a set of bathrooms back there. They're not a ton better than the skate park bathrooms.
Okay.
Does anybody other than graffiti artists know it's there?
Back in the day, you used to buy the ball field. There's quite a few folks who use that one, but they're the same bathrooms as the skate park, and they don't get graffiti as often. I don't know, but yeah, so the open, yeah, now that we publicize it. So the open air theater, if we do that project, we'll definitely have restrooms built in there somewhere.
Okay. And for the pool, I thought you said you were thinking about also beefing up the entrance from Memorial Park, or is that not happen? Or was that like an early design thing?
To come in from, so again, that open air theater, if an engineer can build it the way that this monkey brain thinks it can be built, then I envision that being able to potentially be used as a pavilion inside the pool, and there'd be some sort of fencing that would close it off, so it's interior to the pool, so nobody drowns at night because there's a fence there. But then when we want to use it for a theater or a pavilion out into the ball fields, you can open the fence here and close it in the pool, so the pool is still closed off, and now it's open out there. You'd have restrooms that could go out to the fields. So it could even be, I mean, I'm envisioning literally like a gated fence, like you see we have the service center, or if you're going in this warehouse type of place where the fence would open up on a track. So it can be easily done.
When you said that open air. We would have to rip out some of the field space.
Not necessarily, no, it would be kind of on that hillside / where the same volleyball court currently sits. Somewhere in that, really depends on how big that venue would be. If you're talking about somewhere where you can drive up behind it to allow the bands to unload and things of that nature, you might encroach a little bit. You're gonna have to have a drive lane coming in there somehow. But the drive lane that's at it comes off of Ambrose Way by the batting cage. If you took the farthest western edge of that drive lane, continuing straight across to where the tennis courts are, you'd still have 310 feet at the left field foul line. So that's big enough for all the baseball we have, and it wouldn't get into the soccer goal either. There'd be a fence at the end of it, so there wouldn't be a ton of room behind the soccer goal, but you wouldn't lose any space, but just put a road straight through there. It could be if we go huge on that amphitheater, amphitheater's not the right word, open air venue, we've looked for weeks to try to find the right words. I kept saying amphitheater, I was like, that's not right, because it's not like an amphitheater. So if we went really big on that, then potentially you might lose one of those ball fields, and that's where that extra 300,000 was to replace one of those ball fields somewhere else, to light another field and make another big ball field like the baseball field if we lost that, or if we put it down in the far corner and you lost the softball field to replace that softball field somewhere else in the parks. So, but we definitely don't want to lose any field space. That's great.
My guess is, as a softball player, and why, I always think of why I don't play here in Webster Groves and I play elsewhere. One of the things I think that we lack is 2 lighted fields on one property. Because then you've got 4 hours plus of lighted play on 2 different fields all night long. Now you've got 8 teams playing or whatever. Are you thinking of Blackbird Field? That's what we thought about. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking you're gonna get some arguments. More than you would at this little one here, if you were to like this softball field, but I'm not sure this softball field has the 300 feet we're talking about.
That softball field is
It does not. The tennis court would have to be, you have to put a net or something.
220 now,
Really?
like 220
Okay.
to the tennis court. It would still be a U16 or possibly high school
So,
women's.
yeah, so even as it stands now, lighting that doesn't really give you a lot because adults can't really use it. Yeah. That's my instinct, because I look at that specifically as a selfish point of view.
Let me build a green monster.
Right, yeah.
By the tennis court, yeah.
I think speaking to athletic fields and such, the other thing at the Blackburn Park, and certainly Scott, revelation to me is, we've got a soccer field laid across that field as well. So you get some of that multi-purpose lighting like we have here, you can, if you're not gonna have softball, doesn't sell up, right? I mean, all sports are changing too, right? So soccer is where we need another spot, now you've got a lighting potential built in for multi-purpose field there.
Yeah, well, we had talked last meeting about those mini pitches that the city is doing, city soccer club. And they specifically were there lighting those for that reason, that, you know, a lighted soccer field will be something that people can use.
Any other thoughts, questions?
One more thought is that the ice rink, like you said, it's a driver of revenue. I have friends that skate, my kids don't currently participate regularly in skating activities, but we do come here recreationally. But from those that I knew that skate a lot, either hockey, figure skating, whatever. That's a valuable resource that we have in this community, and to not put proper maintenance on that, I think would be a big mistake.
Honestly, out of that whole list, that's the only one where I'm like, yeah, that's gonna have a lot of upset people if you tell them to, but
Yeah. And the revenue on that is about 700,000 a year, so you're really looking at 2 years. and recover that cost. So. Well, thanks. Well, let's jump on a couple of things. So, one of the things that we'll need in any of these projects is a construction contingency. We're talking about building some of these projects 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road. We don't know what costs are going to be at that point. You know, they've gone up tremendously over the last 5 years with COVID and all the other craziness that's happened. So with the aquatic center, the $12 million estimated number, having about $1 million worth of contingency already built into that $12 million number. But if the residents and council wanted to do this whole $22 million that we have available, it would be my recommendation that we have another $1 million in there of just contingency, so that if we're looking at these projects, and you're talking about putting lights on the field, and we think it's $300,000 today, could be $350,000. 2 more years from now. So we got some money to build into that. Or if we start digging into something and you did a pet cemetery or something, you know, it happens, all kind of crazy stuff like that always happens. So, and then you all asked about some operating costs. What do things cost? So we have a slide that shows what some of the operating costs would be on a few of these things. The aquatic center, as planned through the master plan process, will run a deficit of about $60,000 a year. If we adjust that for some staff inflation, and additional costing, we could add another, you know, 15 or 16,000 on that.
Sorry, Scott, for that aquatic center deficit, how nuanced is that with the full recreation center passes? Because I know I'm guilty of, I have one that, or now definitely, but I used to have one to the whole facility, but I'd really only ever go swimming. So the hockey rink and
so we split those funds out. When you spend $200 to buy a full, I'm sorry, more than that for full pass, whatever it was, $300 for full pass. You know, we split that out, and 70% of it goes to fitness, and 20% of it goes to the pool, and 10% of it goes to the ice rink when we're looking at our revenue numbers and where that money comes from. So we're splitting those fees out so that we know that, you know, you're using it. So if you would switch and you would say, I'm just gonna buy the pool pass now, you're gonna pay $100 just for the summer for the pool pass instead of paying $300 for the whole all-inclusive thing. Then yeah, we would lose that fitness center, or then lose the bulk of the money, that revenue that you pay for your annual pass.
yeah, so if they did have a whole facility pass, you're not really keeping track of, oh, they've checked into the pool 30 times this year and checked into everything else 0, or maybe once.
I run some reports like that, but I'm not tracking each individual person. More that the aquatic center had 100,000 visits, and fitness had 200,000 visits, and the rink had 700,000 visits, or whatever it is.
I was just curious of, if you're gonna be working out and using that facility, you are gonna be going a ton of times, but if the real reason you purchased was the aquatic center, it kind of seems unfair if you're to allocate, 70% of that whole facility revenue to fitness center and not the aquatic center.
When we built those, and then they were, quite frankly, they were built before I even came, it was basically off of the expenses for those. When we take the whole facility's expenses and we look at what it costs to run each facility and how long it's open, the aquatic center is only open, a third of the year, and the expenses on it were less than the expenses for the interior portion of the building. So that's how they got to those revenue numbers, percentage splits. It's not an exact science. It's fuzzy math to some extent.
A lot of it is definitely projecting, especially the staff costs. We know the staff aren't getting cheaper, and we want to pay staff. Well, but aside from annual salary, which is going up, insurance go up. Within the last couple of years, our insurance rates. Yeah. So the last 2 years, averaging 12%. So. Anyway, it's expensive.
Our DRE costs for the city average 47%, so we want to pay something $50,000 a year, 47% more. Is, you know, what we're booking. So if you look at the fitness center managers, we really invest and need to bring back that position. It's not 101,000 gross salary, it's 60,000 gross salary. That's our total cost. Bring that person to that position. Yeah, that is, and I didn't want to highlight 1 and 1A and 2, so. We need to be aware, you know, we're all advocates, aquatic center, outdoor, indoor, all that discussion, but the outdoor aquatic center is gonna have an operating deficit as well. There's an operating deficit understanding they're going in there, so master plan reported that out, so that's 1 and 1A. 2 is really the indoor pool from the master plan that was done, Councilman Hunsaker, and then again, looking at our inflation cost for staff by the time it got built, those salaries.
In terms of there being a deficit, we know there's going to be a deficit. I don't think there's a pool in the region that does not operate without deficits. That's a service that the city offers, an amenity. We know that it's not a great word, but we know it's gonna be subsidized to a degree. It's just how much can we afford to subsidize it every year as we expand.
Yeah, outdoor pool on a really good year can break even. Most years, they're gonna lose a little bit. Indoor pools are taking a bigger hit just because they're open longer. They got more times where you're up and running when there's not people in them. Because the people are back in school and stuff, so it's empty even during the daytime. Typically noon to 4, there's not much going on there. You know, you're still heating the air, heating the water and such, so. Fitness center, park maintenance worker, and event spaces, those are added in there. If we can do some of these additional improvements, we're gonna need somebody that's gonna go cut more grass or take care of more bathrooms, the event space. You know, we really kind of. These numbers are best guesses based on kind of the pictures that we were showing. Again, that hasn't been designed and we don't know how big it'll be, how many events it'll have. But if it's a large venue that's gonna run 20 concerts a year plus wedding receptions and plus, we're gonna need, I'm gonna need additional staff to help just rent it out and manage it, clean it before the next day's usage and stuff. So that's where those numbers come in. Yeah, these were really this is the same presentation we gave to the city council.
Just on timeline, we did choose and why we're here today, the council chose option 2, so we're gonna take all this data. And on November 7th, the council is gonna be discussing that data, because we need to, by December 5th, put that election question together and have it, you know, turned in, so. Theoretically, the council could go to January. This is a big bond issue. The more time we have ahead of the election than talking with citizens and educating them, city does about the potential of this is better. So we don't want to wait till the end of January to make those decisions. Really start with 2 months to try to make a viable campaign, you know, and explain these issues. So we've put that up in December to really get the council to, we make that decision, get it on the, send it to the ballot so we have time to be in education.
That's it.
So, do you want to just show you where the
Where the survey is.
survey is?
2 people have filled it out while we've been here, so.
Yeah.
You share, I want to go, like, you know, I gotta switch this.
So this could be considered second step we're doing on this pool project. We've discussed it, we've decided we need to replace the pool.
Yeah.
Now, this is the asking for money part. And we're not just asking for money for the pool, we're asking for, okay. Still out of my head.
We have talked about this as a pool bond for. Right, yeah, right. This is really a Parks and Recreation grant. So this is inclusive, and I think that's part of the joy of it. The council talked about, there's a lot more users that we never did a hole in the water that we put out there. That use our park systems somehow. This bond is meant for everybody.
Yeah, the aim of all the eclectic projects and having such variety is that hopefully it is meant to be for everybody. Maybe they don't swim, but they use the ball fields.
When we talk about the revenue and so forth and the expenses on some of this stuff, like you said, this, I mean, we aren't in the business of profiting off the Parks Department. We are supplying our citizens with parks and recreation facilities that we can all use and enjoy, and that is going to have an expense.
That's,
And sometimes it's some things, maybe the indoor pool is just too much.
so right now it appears that it is, and you know, the city's made a decision that we're not moving forward with that. However, Scott can talk about this more. Within our plans, our PL, the work that we're doing, it would create space for future indoor pool. So that work would already be done, so it's not off the table forever. We'd probably say that more eloquently in terms of how we're planning.
Yes, we're talking with design teams right now. We've got a request for qualifications out for design firm to come in and help us build that. And one of the things that council has directed is to not take that off the table. It needs to be available. And so as they're gonna be designing this new outdoor aquatic center, they need to plan for the ability to put an indoor structure over the top of it. They need to make sure it's not piping in the way that they're gonna need to put footings to build a building over the top of it, or some sort of structure over the top of it. Some of them are even talking about potentially giving the city cost when we get that far down the road, that we can go ahead and build in and put the footings in now, so even when you want to do it, you don't have to tear up any concrete, your footings are already there. Maybe that costs us another $100,000, maybe that costs us another $500,000, but then you would be able to come in and put your structure up, and it would already have all the footings and everything you need. You still need to put HVAC in, and put pool heaters in, and the water and stuff like that. But it's definitely something that we, council does not want to take off the table, that option is still there in the future, whether the future is 10 years from now or 6 months from now, should operating expenses, be more easily swallowed, that deficit spending, so.
Since the bond can really only go to capitalized improvements. For if we did want to do a indoor pool at some point, but that operating expense would be the only way to do it, either be. Bringing up dollars from somewhere else in the budget or a tax increase.
You called it,
Okay.
those are the only two options. Yeah.
Or I'll put the other one on the table as well, we don't talk about, but the kind of revenue you do bring, again, my revenue, they talk fee increases. You're gonna get into what's affordable, what's not, what we service and that, but it is something to charge for.
How does something like that exactly get on?
So that's all in the council, but I should say that the charter does allow citizens to petition. In order to think of the duplex amendment issue that the city went back a couple of years ago, it reversed, instead of the council doing something, citizens not like it. Citizens can bring something forward to the council, and if the council doesn't do it, it still goes to the ballot. So that exists in our charter, and that's how that can be done, so.
And the council had a lot of thoughtful discussion about it, and even looking at and discussing putting a ballot issue on there for a tax increase for those operating expenses. It got muddy to try to do those both at the same time, quite frankly, in my opinion. I'm not a bonding guy, but if the voters said, yes, you want a tax increase for the operating expenses, but then they also voted down the entire capital project, then you're kind of host. So to put those down at the same time, I think is muddy, so.
It was pretty messy, we did talk about it in different ways. Councilwoman Alexander, got you there, I don't wanna leave you out of the discussion.
No, I'm here, I'm listening, and I'm taking copious notes because a lot of this we have discussed in the meeting. And so I'm just really interested in everybody's input, because again, clearly we have heard quite a bit of support for the indoor pool option, but the question becomes, how do we do it in a way that is sustainable? And that's all about how do we raise that revenue. It's like we can build it, but we have to maintain it, and where does that come from? And so, you know, we need input from the community to find out what we're willing to do to generate that additional expense to cover that.
Thank you. And nobody's asked yet, but we've also talked with our sister communities, sister cities, and see if anybody wants to partner on an indoor pool. I've had conversations with the school district as well. It's just not a good time for most organizations. So, but there hasn't been any traction there, but we certainly tried. I wish times were different, and so it's something that we can really delay, but now it's our bond opportunity, and certainly we have got to replace our outdoor pool. It's not gonna hold up.
Sorry, probably listed how long is the bond?
Bonds to be up to 19 years.
19.
19 years, so the 22 million assumes the tax rate for 19 years and that full schedule of that period of things. Again, and future growth would allow us to add in more bonding and such. I think the real key, what Marie just said here, and why this is the time critical is you're allowed in Missouri to have a tax rate that meets your debt requirements. So we've been very good about paying as we go on things and to have very low debt. In fact, by the end of this calendar year, we'll be down to $3 million of debt. That's gonna take our tax rate and cut it in half next year if we don't bond. I'm not saying we should just bond to keep the tax rate up, but you're gonna be fortunate if you wanna make these kind of investments in the community, have a much different political conversation in the community about raising taxes versus maintaining the taxes that you're taking out.
So I want to share screen again real quick, just to show you where the, if you go to the city's webpage, you can scroll all the way down to midway towards the bottom, and you've got the destination WG. So if you click on that, that's where you can get to the actual survey to take the
You gotta scroll down, it's a news over there.
Takes Balancing Act, and then you can come over here to the right hand side, which is Balancing Act, and if you click there, it'll take you out to the actual tool. It's thinking, there we go. And from here, you can
Yeah, you keep clicking into it, if you don't mind.
yeah. So there are a couple questions where you do have to tell us where you live, whether it's in Webster or one of the surrounding communities. And then age ranges, whether you have children in the household, and gender identities. And then once you click on that, then you can go in, and everything that we just discussed and everything that's on that paper copy is in here. And you can click on any of these, you can get more information by clicking on the little I. It'll give you one little paragraph. If you click more details, it'll bring you in and give you even more details on some of them. And then also there's the little dialogue quotations box. You can click in there and type in, I think this is great. I think Scott's an Indian, whatever you want to say. Both of those are probably valid. Or if you've got other ideas, down at the bottom, there's just a general box where you can type in, I think we need a BMX track or something like that. And then on those, you're gonna have to estimate the cost, and put it in for whatever it is, $300,000 or whatever you think it is. Because to submit at the bottom, you have to be less than that 22.1 million. That's the maximum you can have. Now, you can just do one thing, you can just pick open air theater, select that one, and then hit submit at the bottom. See, when I click that, it moved part of my dollar amount over here. So I click Ivy Crockett, then it moves my dollar amount a little bit more. So you can see where you're at in the process as you get up towards the $12 million. But you can select any parts of those that you want up to that maximum amount, which is looking at everything. If you put everything, 22.
You're gonna have to cut a couple things out of it. But
Is it?
yeah,
Is there more?
it's just, it's about 93 seconds. Now,
Not having to cut anything, what's the point of?
See,
Well,
that's the video.
So no, it's important. One of the reasons we left it there, and again, for you as advocates of the park system. You can get sticker shock with 22, right? And so we don't want to have bond campaigns fail under this weight of the sticker shock, right? So if we get back a bevy of results, all right, spending all this money. Now we know the hill we have. And that's where the schools help us. Even if they're only putting in 12 million, we've got some issues to deal with there to be successful.
So encourage you, please, you guys fill it out, because you're the most knowledgeable folks around, because you've heard it from us, from me a couple times from these, so some of these take a lot of times, but all the info tonight, and encourage your family, your friends, your neighbors to also do this. You know, ultimately, we're gonna be coming back to you guys to ask you to vote for this bond issue and pay the money on the taxes to build these things. And But some of these things really revolutionize our parks department. There's things that we don't have that will really change the flavor of town and things that we can do. Some of it's replacing things that we have, but you know, that open air venue is something that we don't have, and I think we need, and I think a lot of folks will hopefully support that, you know, to have a concert venue and a gathering space for pep rallies or from the school before a football game or summer concert series and things. So there's some really cool ideas, and if you have other cool ideas, put them on, let us know.
It really does set the course for the future, which I think is exciting to think about. Our current rules, but almost 30 years.
Down.
So when we think about these things being here 30 years and beyond, it's pretty neat. Right, thank you for allowing us to crash your meeting. Appreciate it.
I think that's all our new business.
Beautiful, all right, then I'll make a motion to set the next meeting.
Oh, I think you got reports.
Oh,
Mine's really short.
okay.
The time we've already been here.
Well, actually, Councilperson Alexander, any reporting or updates from you?
No, I will just share that we had quite an extensive presentation from the results of the Charter Review Advisory Board. And you will be hearing more. I mean, we now are going to go through and look and review the information that they provided. And then there will be discussions. There'll be more public forums open as we consider what of those changes will be put to the ballots for the citizens to determine whether or not they would like to accept those changes or not. So there's more of that to come. And so we will, you know, keep you posted as when those community engagement meetings become available, and your, again, input is greatly needed and appreciated.
Thank you.
For me, Make a Difference Day is this Saturday. The city staff is actually volunteering for some projects on Friday, which is something, the first time we've done it. So we've got a couple private projects to do, some houses and community spaces, and then a couple city spaces. But the main event happens on Saturday. We are still looking for 3 projects that still need volunteers. So if you're interested in volunteering and available, we've got the trash bash, which is picking up trash in and along the creeks at Deer Creek and Shady Creek. That starts at Lorraine Davis Park on Saturday morning. We've got honeysuckle removal going on in Lorraine Davis Park as well, along those creeks. Separate project, but same location. And then helping winterize the business district pots and planting containers. So we bring all those containers back in, we remove all the plants and soil. Some of those plants we save and winterize through the winter. Some of them we put out in front of the service center for people to pick up. If they want to winterize them, they can plant them again next year. We just don't have the space, and some of them pitch. And then we need to sanitize those pots with some vinegar water, so you'll have funny germy stuff that's in there. That's at the service center, which is also basically right at Lorraine Davis Park. If you're interested in that, you can sign up through the city's website. There's a Make a Difference Day tab on the website that you can find, and it'll bring you right into our Civic Rec software that you can use when you check in the front desk, or you can walk into the front desk and tell them we can send them up there.
You can also join us for the city projects on Friday. Get to hang out with your city staff.
And then we got a bunch of new parks and playground installations happening. Deer Creek Playground is finished, it's ready for play. Ivy Crockett Pavilion has been installed. We have new picnic tables underneath that, although we are switching one of them out for better ADA access. We ordered a new table after we laid it out to get better access. The new playground piece at Ivy Crockett Park was actually installed. I saw it this morning, so that's pretty cool that it's up and running. It's a new kind of web-based crawler, kind of like the park. It's at Glen Park, the newest playground. The rope cables that you can kind of climb on with a big spider web. So that's installed now and ready to play on. And then Blackwood Playground is about 90%. All of the equipment is installed, minus one piece that had to go back to engineering, get redesigned after it went out into the public before we bought it. That piece will be it's been redesigned, so now it's in manufacturing. It'll come to us probably December, early January, but the safety surfacing is supposed to be installed this week with the rain, it's probably get pushed till next week. So we're hoping for the following week that new playground will be open and ready for play. And those are my notes for y'all, but I'm happy to answer any other questions. Yeah. City Hall, wow.
It's not Parks and Rec, but it's awesome.
It is. So we ripped out all, good know at City Hall, they ripped out all the concrete stairs and sidewalk and plaza around the fountain and up into the front doors. And we're replacing those. We had brick inlay in there, so they've got a stamped concrete that looks like brick. Looks really sharp.
But more importantly, there's no more orange.
Yeah, no one sure that is. So
Speaking of playgrounds, the one out here is closed and we talked that plans are in the works, I think is last we said. But specifically, if we're talking about again, this bond issue and doing something else with that space,
yeah,
I assume we're not investing a whole lot into new playground equipment right there currently.
you're 100% right. So council approved funds to buy a new playground. We've gone out and gotten the bids on those playgrounds, so we have a vendor selected to purchase a playground from. I have not bought that playground, just like you said, if we're gonna renovate and do all this work. It doesn't make any sense to spend $60,000 for a year and a half and tear it out and put a open air theater in there. So I'm waiting a little bit to see where we get on this process, what the residents say, they want and what council decides on this bond issue, before we move forward on that.
Are they gonna remove what's there?
We are probably gonna be pulling down what's there. We had a resident that was trying to help us fix it, who's a mechanic and auto body and engineer. He was trying to get, a way to weld plastic, which I'm not aware of. Apparently you can weld plastic, and he was looking into trying to do that for us, and it was not successful. So at this point, that playground too old to get new parts for, so we're gonna be pulling it out and moving it and not having it there for a short period of time.
Having one is better than having one that's
Definitely.
tough.
Yeah. Any other thoughts or questions? I will say the next agenda meeting is for January, that's a long time. We used to meet in December, we used to have a boards and commission, holiday type of event, we haven't done that in the last couple of years. So if y'all wanted to put one on either November or December, you can. We just normally meet the fourth Wednesday, which is the day before Thanksgiving and the week between Christmas and New Year. So if you want to meet on another time, somebody suggest a different date, or you can wait until January. We can always also call a special meeting if we need to, if we have something else that pops up. I'll leave that to you guys because it's your meetings.
Or you decide you don't want a meeting.
When is the bond issue going out?
If council approves it to go out, it'll be in April.
But if we have to turn in the question, first week of January.
So the question is, you have to turn it by the end of January, the council's gonna take their action to send it to the ballot in early December. So really, I'm gonna say, I would encourage you all to have a meeting, you're the main advocate of the park system in terms of the commission. You're probably gonna have some meetings, we're just talking about how are we gonna help educate our residents on why this is important, why it's needed, because you're gonna hear somebody say, we need an open air theater, what are we gonna use that for? And you're gonna be the people that have to help make that case. And so I think your engagement is what Scott probably giving the evil eyes, I'm not saying having more meetings, but it's gonna be good.
Oh, that's why I brought it up.
You are the champions for it, and such.
December meeting would be very beneficial, maybe the second week or so, so we're not right up in the holidays.
I could also send out a doodle poll to you guys, so you can check schedules and don't have to pick a date today. I can send you a doodle poll, that has the potential dates on there, you guys can check schedules, and the members that aren't here can also check schedules. And then we'll pick the one that has the most yeses, that and we can make whatever date that is, and then we can.
Do you guys ever meet just by Zoom? If it's
We haven't, but it's always an option, yeah.
When are we gonna get the results from the survey?
November 7th is when it will be presented to council. It closes November 3rd, so I am anticipating a lot of really good discussion amongst just.
Because honestly, that's the next step of interest for any of us would be, all right, what does everybody else have to say? So, I'd love to get that information as soon as that. you know, as soon as it's available,
Sure.
if that means having a meeting close to that time or whatever.
That's what I was gonna ask. You said December 1st is when council's presenting.
December 5th, so the 7th, they have a work session. We'll present the data from the surveys that we've seen, and then really that conversation there is council trying to coalesce around that number. Because that's what we have to put in the election, it's not the list of projects, it's the number. And so we have to have that number, then we have to have 2 meetings to schedule the ordinance, send it to the ballot. So there'll be the November 21st, will be that first and second reading of the ordinance. And then the final reading, the last action will be December 5th. That's the council meeting that they would pass it and send it into the election board. And we really start an educational campaign.
So if we met before the 5th, there really wouldn't be any value, or we would have those initial results.
I think there's value either way. The survey results will be available November 7th, and we will share those with you, happy to do so. You guys are also welcome to come to the council meeting, either in person or Zoom. Would love to hear from you all, honestly. Within that meeting, if anybody wanted to speak. As Eric was saying, the question, the amount has to be decided on that bit, but we still have to determine the projects that we're gonna include. Those don't go on the ballots, but those are the projects that we need help from you all in talking about and forming our education campaign around. So either before or after, both would be beneficial.
Well, then my suggestion is that we meet in between the release of the data and that November or December 5th meeting, so that we have decided as a group. Either any advice we're gonna give to council officially, or how we feel as a group. So
In November.
I would move for something in November. Yeah.
I agree.
I would suggest that if you get in before the Thanksgiving week, week of Thanksgiving is their first reading of the ordinance. So if you have a meeting 13, 14, somewhere in that range, that second week, that's gonna give you some time to communicate to council before they start taking official legislative actions.
So the 15th is a Wednesday. Yeah. if we wanted to- I like that day. Scott, does that work for you? Before we make a motion?
Seriously. And I don't, that's the way 1 week of vacation coming up.
I was just looking, I was like, that's like first week of regular season.
Yeah,
I apologize, I didn't look at that. You have it.
I will actually be back on the 14th, so the 15th.
Giving you a day.
Would probably work. I'll have to do some work in the back on the blondes, but yeah. I'm available. Yes.
Move to set the next meeting for the 15th.
All right, I'll second it, or 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. I'll second it. All in favor? All opposed? All right, November 15th, 7. All right, and I'll make or actually, any other last comments, questions before we adjourn? Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, yeah, I had to do it. I don't know why I haven't been getting some.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all, as always.
Good night.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.